The manhole cover lifted like it wanted out of my hands. It wasn't just heavy. It fought. My fingers slid on the wet iron, and I had to set my boots wide on the rain-slick asphalt like I was bracing against a live thing. When the seal finally broke, it didn't go with a scrape. It went with a wet pop, like peeling a lid off a jar of something that should have stayed closed, and a gust of air punched me in the face. Raw oysters and pennies. Not sewer. Not rot. Not that normal summer stink of old piss and bleach. This was salt and metal and a clean, cold sting like somebody cracked open a can of brine under my nose. Then the water below surged up and slapped the underside of the cover. Not a splash. A swing. Like something down there had a shoulder and took a shot at me. I backed off, boots skidding, and I let a curse rip so loud the dispatcher on the radio went quiet for a full second before she came back, all clipped and thin. Unit 12, say again. Manhole's alive. I snapped, and then I had to swallow because my mouth tasted like salt already. I'm at 57th and Christ, just Midtown line. It's surging. Kyle stood 2 steps behind me under his cheap hood, gas meter in one hand, flashlight in the other, trying to look like he belonged out here. He was new enough that his rain jacket still looked like rain jacket, not like a thing that lived in the truck and got stained by every bad night we ever had. 20-something, shoulders too straight, eyes too awake. The kind of kid who says sir to the foreman and thinks city work is a ladder, not a pit. He leaned in like it was a science exhibit. This is supposed to be a standard storm call, he said, mostly to himself. Overflow from. Stop narrating my life. I told him. My voice came out meaner than I meant, but the smell had my nerves already. Get the meter down there. He blinked, offended, then knelt and started lowering the gas meter on its strap like he'd practiced in training videos. The rain hammered the street. Water ran along the curb in fast sheets, carrying cigarette butts and leaves, and that oily rainbow sheen off the road. Normal storm stuff. The city doing what it does when it gets overwhelmed. Shove everything down the drains and pray. Only the drain was breathing. I leaned over the opening and shone my light down. The ladder rungs were wet, obviously, but the water line was wrong. It sat way too high and it moved like tide, not runoff, up and down, slow and steady, as if the tunnel had lungs. Every time it rose, it kissed the bottom rung like it wanted to climb. And the water wasn't brown. It was clean, clear as lake water. You could see down into it, deep enough to catch the curve where the brick arch disappeared, and it was full of tiny flickers, blue-green points drifting like plankton. We're not on the damn coast. We're miles inland. Our storm drains don't sparkle. Kyle's meter bobbed just above the surface. Number stayed calm. Oxygen fine. No explosive mix. No hydrogen sulfide spike. Nothing that matched the smell or the slow, stupid breathing. Kyle straightened up and tried to sound casual, like he could file it away under weird but explainable. Bioluminescence, he said, like he was proud of the word. I stared at him. He shrugged, embarrassed. It's a thing. Like algae? Microorganisms? I saw a documentary. Yeah, I said. You see a documentary about ocean water climbing up a midtown storm line like it's got a schedule. He didn't answer. He just kept looking at the opening. He was doing that thing rookies do where their brain wants to turn fear into curiosity so they don't have to admit they're scared. My radio crackled. I thumbed the mic. Dispatch, give me the supervisor. I got him on the 3rd try. He answered like I'd interrupted something important, which I had. His dry couch, his dry living room, the storm on TV like entertainment. What now, he said. There's backflow, I said, but it's not normal. Water's clean. It's moving like tide. Silence, then a snort. It's the storm, man. Clear it. Kyle's meter's reading normal. I added because I needed him to hear that this wasn't me being dramatic. But it smells like salt. Like ocean. Stop with the poetry, he said. You want overtime? Clear the blockage. It's not a blockage. I started, and he cut me off. Everything's a blockage until it's clear. Do your job. He clicked off. Kyle looked at me like he'd just watched his hero get dismissed and didn't know what to do with it. He opened his mouth. Don't, I said. He shut it. Then he tried anyway. If it's tidal, that could mean some kind of cross connection. Like a break into what, Kyle? I said. Into the Atlantic? Shut up. I clipped my harness on anyway, because the water had already climbed another inch while we argued, and because I've been the guy they call for years. Everybody loves to say they can do confined space until they have to put their boots on a ladder and go down into air that doesn't belong to the sky. Kyle kept hovering at my shoulder. I can come, he said. I'm certified. No, I'm literally trained for. No, he bristled. Pride showed up fast. You're not the only one who can do this. Yeah, I said and tightened the strap until it bit my ribs. And you want to die down there? Fine, but I'm not signing the report. You want your mom to get a phone call about how you drowned in a storm drain because you wanted to prove something? Not on my paperwork. His face went hot. He hated me for that. And for a second, I thought he might push. Then the water below thumped the ladder again, a soft slap like a hand under a door, and his eyes flicked down and he swallowed. He handed me my tool bag without another word. I descended. The ladder was slick. Every rung felt like it had slime on it, but when I touched it, it wasn't slime. It was just wet. Too wet. Like the air itself had soaked the metal. Condensation gathered on my gloves and ran down my wrists, even though I hadn't touched the water yet. My headlamp cut through the shaft in hard white. Rainwater ran down from above in sheets, hitting the walls and making the whole space hiss. The sound changed as I went lower. Up top, it was rain. Halfway down, it became a low gurgle, pipes swallowing. Then, lower still, it turned into something else, like being inside a boat hull when the water outside slaps it. A steady, wet percussion you feel in your teeth. I hit the walkway. Narrow strip of concrete along the brick arch water lapped just below it, rising and falling with that slow breath. The sparks drifted in lazy swirls, not like runoff, not like anything with urgency. Calm, like the water owned the place. Kyle's voice crackled in my ear through the comm line. You down? Yeah, I said, and my voice sounded wrong in my own ears, tight like I was talking with my teeth clenched. Anything unusual? He asked, trying to keep it professional. I took 2 steps forward and my light caught the first thing that snapped my brain sideways. Wrong geometry. We have maps. Everything under this city is mapped because every year some suit pays a consultant to draw pretty diagrams and call it infrastructure assessment. This line should have been a straight run to the interceptor. No side tunnels for at least 3 blocks. No branches, no old lines, nothing. There was a side tunnel now. Not a rough break. Not a collapse. A clean opening in the brick wall, perfectly rounded like somebody bored a giant hole through old masonry and then smoothed the edge with a palm. The brick around it looked softened, like it had been kneaded. The mortar didn't crumble. It looked pressed. Water slid in and out of that opening with the same slow tide breath, as if whatever was on the other side was breathing through it. I stopped. My throat tightened for no good reason. I hate when my body does that, when it decides something is wrong before my brain can justify it. Kyle, I said. Yeah, there's an unmapped branch. He laughed, because of course he did. Come on, I'm not kidding. His laugh died halfway, and he cleared his throat. Mark it for the report, he said, like he was already trying to turn it into a bureaucratic problem instead of a real one. Yeah, I muttered and stepped closer. The smell got stronger the closer I got. Salt, metal, a clean hospital sting, not sewage, not rot, something that didn't belong down there. My light beam hit the inside of the side tunnel, and for a second my brain went water, because water reflects. The inside looked like a flat surface, catching my light clean, a sharp line, not rippled. But it wasn't water. It was a flat sheet, vertical like glass. It ran across part of the tunnel wall, spanning from chest height down into the water, like somebody had shoved a giant mirror into the brick. A mirror in a storm drain. My first reaction was stupid. I almost laughed because it was so dumb my brain tried to turn it into a prank. Like some asshole dragged a mirror down here to freak out the next guy. People do dumb shit all the time in tunnels. Tags, candles, needles, lost bikes. A mirror would have been weird, but not impossible. Then I saw the reflection didn't match. In the mirror, the tunnel behind me wasn't brick. It was smooth, ribbed, dark like wet metal. The sparks in the water were brighter, thicker, like a whole cloud of glowing plankton, and there were shapes in the background. Vertical structures like columns, standing where I knew there was just more sewer line. I pulled my light away from the mirror and shone it at the wall beside it. Brick, old mortar, graffiti, normal. I swung back to the mirror. Wrong tunnel again, wrong world. A real, stupid chill ran on my spine. Not movie chill, not ooh spooky. The kind that makes your shoulders lock and your stomach drop because some ancient part of you just saw a cliff edge. Kyle, I said, and my voice cracked like a teenager. I hated that. What? He snapped like my tone offended him. There's a mirror down here. He laughed again, reflex. Okay, I'm serious. His laugh stopped. Like a mirror? Like a damn mirror. Silence. Then, trying to steady himself, he said, maybe it's some kind of inspection panel. Like a polished. It's reflecting something that isn't here. He started, and I could hear him shifting up top, stepping closer to the hole like he wanted to hear better. That's impossible. I took one more step without meaning to. My boots splashed in shallow water on the walkway. The mirror's surface didn't fog. It didn't get dirty. It held the other scene steady like a live feed. I moved my head left. The reflection moved perfectly. Too perfectly. Like it wasn't reflecting our tunnel at all. It was showing me a different one that happened to line up with my movements. The ribbed metal in the reflection reminded me of something I hadn't thought about in years. Pressure hull plating. Submarine guts. The way a deep habitat module looks in photos. Curved walls, ribs, every seam designed to hold back tons of water. Except this was in a storm drain under a city street. Kyle's voice sounded far away now, like he was talking through a wall. What do you see? I aimed my light into the mirrored tunnel. It didn't hit brick. It sank into darkness like the beam got eaten. It caught the edges of those columns, metal pylons or supports, slick with condensation. The water in that reflected place looked deeper, blacker, like an ocean trench pretending to be a hallway. Something moved in the reflection. Not a fish, not a drift of silt, not a rat. A figure crossed behind me in the reflected tunnel. Tall, pale, jointed wrong, moving too smoothly like it didn't have bones so much as hinges. It passed behind one of the ribbed columns and vanished. I spun around in the real tunnel so fast my shoulder smacked the brick. My light hit normal sewer line, brick arch, thin water, my own footprints. Nothing. I faced the mirror again. The figure was closer now, half visible behind the glass, like it was standing on the other side of a one-way window. I could see its head shape, humanish but too blank, like a face molded under a wet cloth. No eyes catching light, just depressions where eyes should be shallow bowls. Its mouth area didn't open. It didn't need to. It just watched me, still as a buoy in dead water. It lifted a hand. A handprint hit the mirror from the other side and stuck there as a smear of dark wetness, like oil on glass. My stomach turned so hard I thought I might puke into my mask. My mind tried to grab onto something normal. A person trapped, a diver, a homeless guy down here high on something, an underground art thing, anything except what it looked like, something pressing on the wrong side of reality like it knew exactly where to put its palm. The handprint pressed. The mirror bulged inward by a fraction. Not shattered, not cracked. It flexed, like it wasn't glass at all, like it was a membrane stretched tight. I stepped back so fast my heel caught the edge of the walkway, and I almost went in. I caught myself on the wall with my gloved hand. My glove came away wet. I looked at it. A thin film coated the palm, clear and glossy. Under my light, I saw tiny black flecks suspended in it like pepper. I wiped down my pants. It didn't smear off. It clung like oil. "Kyle," I said, and I tried to keep my voice steady. I really did. "Do not come down here." "What the hell are you talking about?" He snapped back, and I heard the metal scrape of him shifting equipment. "If you're messing with me." "I'm not. Stay up there. Call the confined space team. Call fire. Call whoever you have to call. Don't." His boots hit the ladder. He'd started down before I finished the sentence. I felt this ugly flash of rage, sharper than fear. The kind of rage you get when someone is about to get themselves killed and they're dragging you with them because they can't just listen for one goddamn time. "Kyle," I shouted, voice bouncing hard off brick. "Don't yell at me." He fired back, already halfway down. "I'm not child." "You're acting like one," I said, and my hands shook so bad I had to clench them into fists. He came down breathing hard, full of bravado. His light swung like a drunk lighthouse beam. He hit the walkway and looked up at me like I called him names. Then he saw the mirror. He stopped mid-step. His mouth opened and nothing came out, because it didn't look like a prank anymore up close. It looked like a door pretending to be a reflection. He took a step toward it anyway, because that's what he did. He couldn't help it. He had to see. "Back up," I said. "Short, mean, functional." He didn't. He leaned in like his eyes could solve it. "What is that?" he whispered. The tunnel thumped. Not a vibration. A pressure wave. A body punch. The waterline rose an inch in one go and settled again. Kyle flinched like the brick itself had hit him. He slapped his hand to the wall, instinct grounding. In the mirror, the thing's blank face stayed pressed close. Kyle's voice went thin. "Is that a person?" "It's not," I said, and I didn't know how I knew, but I knew. He didn't hear me, or he didn't want to. He stepped closer. I grabbed his harness strap and yanked him back, so hard his light flew up and hit the ceiling and made the water sparks flash. He spun on me, anger igniting fast, because that was easier than being afraid. "What the fuck is wrong with you?" The membrane rippled. A thin line formed at the center of the mirror, like a seam. It parted just a little, and a ribbon of the clear film slid through into our side. It didn't drip. It crawled. Kyle saw it and froze, and I watched the exact moment his brain failed him. That half second where curiosity holds you in place. The same half second that gets divers killed when they stare at something they shouldn't instead of checking their air. The ribbon touched the toe of his boot. It flattened and climbed up the rubber like it loved friction. It reached the laces, squeezed between fibers, and kept going toward his ankle. Kyle finally moved. He stomped and kicked, trying to fling it off. Bad move. The ribbon snapped taut and split into 3 thinner ribbons that wrapped around his boot like ligatures. They tightened so fast his foot jerked hard enough to twist his knee. Kyle screamed. Raw. It echoed ugly off the brick like the tunnel itself enjoyed it. I dropped to one knee and hacked at the ribbons with my knife. The blade slid through the film, but it didn't cut like rope or flesh. It separated, then rejoined behind the blade like I was slicing water. "Get your boot off," I barked. Kyle clawed at his laces. His fingers shook. He couldn't get purchase because the film made everything slick. He kept swearing and yanking and getting nowhere. The film reached his ankle seal and found skin. Kyle's whole body jolted like he'd been tossed. His back arched. His hands locked into claws. His eyes rolled toward the mirror and fixed there, wide and glossy. And that's when I realized the mirror wasn't just showing us something. It was watching. In the reflection, more figures stood in the ribbed tunnel now. Not rushing, not swarming, just there, lined up between columns like an audience at a tank window. Pale shapes, wrong joints, faces like wet cloth pulled tight. One of them leaned in and pressed a hand against the membrane again, right where the film ribbon fed through, and the ribbon on our side tightened like it got a signal. I grabbed Kyle under the arms and tried to drag him back along the walkway. My boot slipped. Water splashed. The film held him like a leash. Kyle's boot twisted, and I heard a wet pop from his ankle that made my stomach crawl. He howled, high and broken, then the howl cut off when he sucked in and gagged. Clear gel spilled from his mouth in a string. Same black flecks inside. I stared at it for a fraction too long because my brain couldn't accept that his throat was producing the stuff, like his body was turning into part of the mechanism. That fraction was enough. The film surged. It climbed Kyle's shin, then his knee, and his pants tightened and darkened as the gel soaked in from the inside. His leg didn't disappear like quicksand. It changed shape, collapsing in spots like something under the skin redistributed itself. Like his bones got softened and moved out of the way. Kyle kicked once more. The kick came weak. His muscles stopped obeying him. His head turned toward the mirror like it was being pulled by a hook behind his eyes. His mouth moved without sound. Then low and calm, right through the comms line like he'd always talked that way, he said, "Open it." It wasn't Kyle's voice. It rode his voice, like a second mouth inside his. I yanked my radio mic and screamed for the top crew to haul us up. My words came out chopped by panic. "Haul. Now. Kyle's. Static." I slapped the radio like that would fix anything. Nothing. The line went dead. The tunnel breathed again. Another pressure thump. Water rose higher. The tide was coming in the middle of the city, under a streetlight flickering in rain. Kyle's eyes stayed locked on the mirror. He whispered, "Open it." Again, softer, like a prayer he couldn't stop repeating. I punched him, hard, right in the jaw through his mask strap. His head snapped sideways. He blinked once. Nothing changed. His mouth opened and more clear gel stretched out like spit, thick and wrong. My hand started tingling where I'd touched the film, like pins under my skin. My mind flashed a picture, my own throat filling with that stuff, my own mouth turning into a tool. I made my choice. I ran. I didn't run away from Kyle because I wanted to. I ran because the tunnel felt like it had already decided what it wanted, and it was just negotiating details. I sprinted back along the walkway, boots slapping water, shoulders scraping brick. Behind me, Kyle's flashlight beam swung wildly like a drowning signal. I hit the ladder and climbed like a scared animal. Boots slipping, hands burning on wet rungs. Every breath tasted like salt. The air got colder as I rose, which made no sense. It should have been warmer near the street. Instead, it felt like I was climbing out a deep dive, breaking through layers of different water temperatures. Only it was air. Halfway up, something hit the underside of the ladder from below. A thump. Not Kyle. Not a splash. A knock, like a fist against metal. I climbed faster. My harness snagged, and I nearly tore it off my chest getting free. Above, rain hammered the street. Kyle's voice didn't come through anymore. Nothing did. Just the hiss of rain and the distant wail of sirens that weren't for us yet. I climbed out, rolled onto the asphalt, and sucked air like I'd been buried. Two crew guys stood over the hole with their lights. One of them, Manny, looked down at me and snorted. "Where's the kid?" he asked. I tried to speak, and only a croak came out. I pointed down and forced words through my teeth. "Don't go." Manny laughed like I told a joke. He leaned over to look, because of course he did. The other guy did too, curiosity pulling them toward the hole like a gravity well. The manhole opening was dark now. Not night dark, wrong dark, like the water below absorbed light. Then, from beneath, came a clean sound that didn't belong in a sewer at all. A soft ding, not echo-y, not distant, like it happened right under the cover. Both of them went still. Their shoulders stiffened. Their lights shook a little. I grabbed the manhole cover with both hands and slammed it down. The metal hit the rim and bounced once like it landed on a spring. Something below pushed back. I shoved harder and forced it to seat. My arms shook with the effort. The cover vibrated under my palms, a steady buzzing like a phone call you don't want to answer. Manny grabbed my shoulder. "What the fuck are you doing?" "Closing it." I snapped, and my voice sounded like I'd swallow glass. "You can't just," he started, but then the cover thumped from underneath, and he felt it too. His mouth shut. His eyes got wide. The buzzing kept going, steady, patient. We called it in. Emergency. Rescue. Confined space. Fire. Cops. The whole parade the city uses to pretend it cares once someone's already gone. By the time they showed up, the rain had turned the intersection into a shallow river. Water ran down into every grate like the city was drinking. They brought lights, ropes, SCBAs, tripods, serious faces, clipboards. They treated me like I was in shock, which pissed me off because shock is what happens when you hit a deer. This wasn't shock. This was me trying to keep the world from opening its mouth. A captain asked me what happened. I tried to explain without sounding insane. I said unmapped branch and mirror and watched his eyes change when he decided what box to put me in. They opened the manhole again. The tide was gone. The blue-green sparks were gone. The wrong dark was gone. Normal sewage stank up into the street like an insult. Brown water rushing, full of trash, full of that usual chemical city smell. The ladder looked normal. The walls looked normal. The side tunnel wasn't there. Brick wall, unbroken, like it had never had an opening. I stood at the edge with rain running down my face, and I felt my own brain try to slip, like maybe I'd imagined it. Like maybe I'd gone down into a tunnel and had some panic episode and assaulted a kid and then ran. Except my gloves still had that clear film clinging to the seams, and my fingertips still tingled like they were asleep. They sent 2 rescue techs down anyway because they had to. They came up 10 minutes later with nothing. Irritated, calling it false alarm. They started using words like swept and washed out and storm surge in the line, like Kyle's whole body could turn into a paperwork phrase. Kyle's name became missing presumed swept. My supervisor called me later and told me I was suspended pending investigation because I panicked the response. He said it like I'd thrown a tantrum in a restaurant. I didn't argue. I couldn't. My mouth kept tasting salt every time I swallowed. I went home soaked and shaking. I peeled off my wet gear in my kitchen like I didn't trust my own bathroom. I sat on the floor with my back against the cabinet and stared at my hands until my eyes hurt. The skin looked normal. A little wrinkled from water, nails dirty, knuckles scraped. But every now and then, my fingers would twitch like something was plucking tendons. I kept hearing it even through the walls. Not sirens. A slow, steady thump, like a heartbeat traveling through pipes. I finally got up because I couldn't stand the way my hands felt. I needed to wash them. Needed hot water, soap, something normal to scrape that invisible film off. I went into the bathroom. The light buzzed overhead, dim and yellow. My shower curtain hung wrong. My tub had a ring of old stains I'd never bothered clean. All the normal ugliness of an apartment that belongs to a guy who works too much and sleeps too hard. I turned the faucet handle, and I hesitated with my fingers on it, listening to my own building breathe. I turned the faucet handle. For a second, nothing came out, like the pipes paused to think about whether to behave. Then the tap coughed, and a stream hit the porcelain. It wasn't cloudy. It wasn't rusty. It wasn't even lukewarm the way my building's water usually is. It came out clear and cold, and it smelled like the inside of that hole, brine and metal, so sharp it stung the back of my nose. I stuck my hands under it anyway, because my brain was still trying to insist on normal. Soap, scrub, rinse, get on with it. The water beat it on my skin like it didn't want to spread. It didn't soak. It sat on top, glossy, too perfect, and when I rubbed my palms together, the sound wasn't skin on skin. It was slick rubber. I jerked my hands back and stared at them. Nothing visible. No oil sheen. Just my hands wet. I leaned in closer to the sink because I couldn't help it, and I watched the drain. The little whirl formed the way it always does, a small vortex pulling the stream down. The surface inside the drain trap reflected the light from above like a tiny black lens. A tiny mirror. The reflection wasn't my bathroom. For half a heartbeat, it showed a ribbed tunnel. Dark columns. Water full of blue-green flecks drifting like a living star field. Something pale moved behind one of the columns like a person passing behind frosted glass. Then the reflection snapped back, and I saw my own face over the sink. Eyes bloodshot, hair plastered down, mouth hanging open like an idiot. I slapped the faucet off so hard the handle squealed. Silence dropped in thick. Not quiet, my building still creaked, the storm still hammered the window, but the bathroom felt like it was holding its breath. Then the pipes in the wall gave a slow, steady thump. Not water hammer, not a random clunk. Ae tempo. Patient, confident. I backed out of the bathroom like there was a man with a knife in there. I shut the door and leaned my head against it and tried to listen for anything normal. My throat tightened. The urge to clear it rose fast, like a cough pushing up from my chest. I clamped my mouth shut until my jaw hurt. In the kitchen, my phone buzzed on the counter. Not a call, a notification. No caller ID, no number, just the city work order app. Assignment, level -3 access. Status, open. I stared at it like it was a snake on my floor. I hadn't logged in. I hadn't accepted anything. I was suspended. I should have been locked out. My thumb hovered over the screen, and my whole hand trembled like it wanted to touch it anyway. I didn't. I set the phone face down like that could make it stop existing. The pipes thumped again. Slow, steady. I went to my fridge and yanked it open because I needed something solid, something that didn't come out of my walls. I drank straight from a water bottle I'd bought last week. I swallowed fast. Salt hit my tongue. I froze with the bottle at my lips. I poured a little into my palm and tasted it again like maybe my brain was messing with me. Salt. Ocean salt. Sharp enough to make my cracked knuckles sting from the inside. I flung the bottle into the sink like it had bitten me. It clattered loud. The pipes thumped. I grabbed my keys. I didn't even put shoes on right away, just jammed my feet into whatever was by the door and got out of the apartment like the hallway air might save me. The stairwell smelled like damp concrete and old cigarettes. It was always like that, comforting in a disgusting way, until I hit the lobby and heard it. A soft ding, not from the elevator, not for someone's phone, a clean little metallic chime, like a sonar return, except muted, like it was coming from underwater. I stopped dead. The building's front door had a little glass pane, and rain streamed down it in fast lines. Street lights smeared into long yellow streaks through the water. In the glass, behind my reflection, I saw a hallway that didn't belong to my building. Ribbed walls, dark columns, water floating with blue-green flecks. A pale figure stood back there like it was waiting for me to turn around. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like a punch. Spoon. My building hallway stared back at me. Cheap mailboxes. A busted bench. No tannet. No ocean. I faced the glass again. Just rain in my own pale face. I shoved the door open and stepped outside into the storm. The air smelled like wet asphalt and car exhaust. Normal. Good. I sucked it in like I'd been drowning. Then I tasted salt again, faint, riding the rain. Every puddle on the sidewalk looked darker than it should have. Every gutter stream looked too clean. I walked fast, no destination, just away from my building. I cut down toward the river because that's where the city breathes during storms. Toward the water, always toward the water. The streets were half flooded in spots. Storm drains gulped. Traffic lights blinked red like lazy warning eyes. You could hear the sewer system working under your feet if you listened. That low sucking, that constant swallow. Except underneath it, now, I heard a rhythm. That same slow thump, like something big moved through the pipes with intention. I ended up under an awning outside a bodega. The guy behind the counter looked up when I came in drenched and wild-eyed. "You okay?" he asked. "Give me a pack of gum," I said, because my mouth kept wanting to clear itself, and I needed something to chew, something to hold back the urge. He slid the gum across the counter. His hand paused midair. "You taste salt?" he asked suddenly, squinting at me like I tracked it in. I stared at him. He frowned. Storms pushing the river up. Always makes the air taste like ocean. Happens. No, it doesn't, I wanted to say. Not here. Not like this. I bought the gum, shoved 3 pieces in my mouth at once, and walked back out. The work order buzzed again in my pocket like a heartbeat. Level -3 access. Status, open. I kept walking, kept chewing, kept my mouth busy. When I finally got back to my apartment, I didn't go in right away. I stood in the hall and listened through the door like I expected to hear my sink running on its own. Nothing. I went in. The air felt damp. Not humid, wet. Like the whole apartment had been exhaling steam. My bathroom door was open. I hadn't left it open. I stood at the threshold and stared into the bathroom like a coward. The faucet dripped once. Plink. The toilet tank refilled with a faint blue-green flicker like something alive swam behind the porcelain. I backed up and hit the wall with my shoulder. "Fuck this," I whispered because I needed sound, human sound, anything that wasn't the pipes. My phone buzzed again. Another notification. Assignment updated. Urgent. Location. Midtown line /57th. I didn't accept it. I didn't decline it. I threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall and bounced onto the carpet like a dead fish. The screen stayed lit. The notification stayed. The pipes thumped once like acknowledgement. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on my couch with every light on and chewed gum until my jaw ached. I watched the kitchen sink like it was a loaded gun. I avoided the bathroom completely. I pissed in the kitchen sink like an animal because I couldn't stand to be near the toilet. Around 3 in the morning, the building went quiet the way it does when everyone's finally asleep. No footsteps, no distintive, just rain and the city's far-off hum. That's when the sound started in my walls. Ping, soft, clean, a single note, like someone tapping a glass with a spoon. Then, a few seconds later, ping. I sat up, so hard my spine popped. It came again. Same interval, same tone, like sonar. Not the sharp cartoon ping you hear in movies. This was muted, like it traveled through water before it reached me. Like it was coming from inside my pipes, echoing through metal. Ping. My throat clenched. My tongue pressed hard against the roof of my mouth. I got up and went to the kitchen and stood with my ear near the wall where the plumbing ran. Ping. The pipes vibrated under it, faint. Ping. I backed away and nearly tripped over my phone on the floor. The screen was still on, bright as a lighthouse. Level -3 access. Status. Open. My hands shook so bad I couldn't pick it up at first. I finally grabbed it and turned it off completely. Held the button until it went dark. Like killing it would kill the request. The moment the screen went black, the sink behind me dripped. Not one drip, a steady trickle. I turned slowly. The faucet was off. The handles were off. But water ran anyway, clear and cold, and the smell hit me like a slap. Oysters and pennies. The trickle thickened into a stream. The drains swallowed it without rising, like the sink led straight into an ocean. Ping. The sound came from the sink basin now, resonating through the porcelain like a bell. I backed away, heart punching. The water in the basin darkened. Not with dirt, with depth, like the bottom of the sink dropped away. A reflection formed in the black surface. Not my ceiling, ribbed tunnel, dark columns, blue-green flecks drifting like stars. Something pale moved closer in that reflected water, slow, deliberate. I grabbed a dish towel and whipped it over the sink like I was smothering a fire. The towel soaked instantly, heavy with salt water. The stream kept running underneath, you could hear it. Ping. From under the towel, a bulge rose like something pressed from below. A handprint formed against the cloth, 5 fingers, perfect outline, and the towel stretched over it like skin. Tiny black flecks shimmered under the wet fabric. I yanked the towel off and threw it across the room. It hit the wall and stuck there for a second, wet, then slid down like a dead thing. The sink water surged up, slapped the underside of the faucet spout, like that first manhole cover, then settled. My throat spasmed. The urge to clear it hit hard enough to make my eyes water. I clamped my lips shut and forced myself to swallow through it. Something shifted behind my tongue. It wasn't pain. It was slickness, like my saliva got thicker in one instant. I spit into the sink without meaning to. Habit. Disgust. What hit the basin wasn't spit. Clear gel, stretched in a string, and clung to the porcelain. Tiny black flecks suspended inside. My whole body went cold. I ran to the trash and gagged into it. Mouth still clamped shut between gags like I was trying to keep something from coming up. I couldn't vomit. I just heaved and shook. When I finally looked back at the sink, the water was gone. The basin was dry, normal, like nothing had happened, except the gel string was still there, stuck to the porcelain like dried egg white. It glistened under the light. I didn't touch it. I backed into my couch and sat down hard. I knew then that it wasn't just that tunnel. It wasn't just Midtown. It wasn't even the sewer system. It was water itself. Anything that connected, anything that flowed. If it could move through pipes, it could move through me. I didn't go to work. Obviously, I couldn't. Suspension or not, I didn't even look at my truck. I called in sick anyway, because some part of me still wanted to pretend I lived in a world where sick days mattered. My supervisor answered on the second ring, voice sharp. "You got nerve calling." "I'm not coming in," I said. "You're suspended, genius." "Then don't worry about it." He paused. "What happened down there?" he asked, and his tone shifted just a hair, like he'd heard something in my voice he didn't like. "Kyle happened. Kyle got swept," he said, flat, like reading off a report. "Storm water. It's tragic." "It wasn't storm water," I said. Silence. Then he sighed like a tired parent. "If you're going to keep pushing that mirror bullshit, you need help. I need you to listen." I snapped, and anger flared because fear had nowhere else to go. "I need you to tell me why my apartment water tastes like the ocean. I need you to tell me why the work order app keeps assigning me to a level that doesn't exist." "You're locked out," he said immediately. "Too quick. IT handles that. Not my problem." "I'm not locked out," I said. I turned my phone off, and my sink started making sonar noises. He snorted. "Sonar? Sure. I'm telling you. You're telling me you panicked a rescue response, assaulted a coworker." I tried to pull him back. "And now you're calling me with sea ghost stories," he finished. Voice cold again. "You want a job? Shut up and let the investigation finish." "Fuck you," I said because I meant it. He hung up. I stood there staring at my phone like I want to crush it. It buzzed anyway. Even off, it buzzed. Not a vibration. A hum through the plastic like a heartbeat. Level -3 access. Status, open. I did the next stupid human thing. I asked for help. I went to urgent care because I needed someone to look at my throat, to tell me I was imagining the gel, to give me a pill, to label it anxiety, so I could file it away and breathe again. The waiting room smelled like disinfectant and wet coats. A TV played a morning show with the volume low. A kid coughed into his sleeve. Normal. A nurse took my vitals and asked what was wrong. "My throat feels tight," I said, which was a lie and not a lie. "And I keep tasting salt. Like ocean." She gave me a look. "You been vomiting?" "No." "Drinking?" "No." "You eat anything salty?" I almost laughed. "No." She wrote something down like it was boring. A doctor came in later, young, tired eyes. He looked at my chart and then at me. "So," he said, "throat tightness and salt taste." "Yeah," I said, and my hands gripped my knees hard enough to hurt. "And I had exposure. At work. Sewer. Confined space." He perked up a little at the word exposure. "Chemicals." "Not chemicals," I said, and I hated how insane it sounded before I even said it. "Salt water." He blinked. "You work by the coast?" "No." He smiled like I was a kid making up monsters. "Then it wasn't salt water." I leaned forward, anger and fear mixing into something ugly. I tasted it. I saw. He held up a hand. "Let's keep it simple. Stress can change taste. Anxiety can cause throat tightness. We could do a strep test, look for reflux." "It's not reflux," I snapped. He frowned now. "Okay, we can do a basic exam." He looked at my throat with a light. Pressed my neck gently. "You're tense," he said. "No shit, imutarat." He ignored that. "No squealing. No lichens. Nothing alarming." "Then why do I feel like I'm swallowing water?" I said, and the words came out harsher than I meant. "Why does it feel like something's in there?" He leaned back, pen poised. "Panic. Globus sensation. Very common." "I'm not panicking," I said, even though I was. He watched me a moment, then sighed. Look, I'm not saying you're making it up. I'm saying your body reacts to stress in real ways. Let's get you something for anxiety. I wanted to grab him by his scrubs and shake him until he tasted what I tasted. Instead, I sat there and felt my throat tighten again, like it was punishing me for trying. He wrote a prescription, handed it to me, and that was that. Like a label could close a door. In the parking lot, rain drizzled light and cold. My mouth tasted like pennies. I sat in my car because I'd driven, because of course I had, because I needed something enclosed and controlled, and I stared at the little paper in my hand like it was a joke. My phone buzzed. Level -3 access. Status, open. I threw the prescription on the passenger seat and slammed my fist on the steering wheel until the horn chirped. Across the lot, a storm drain near the curb gurgled as it swallowed runoff. Clean water swirled in a perfect little whirl. Blue-green flecks drifted in it. My skin crawled. I drove home with my radio off because static made me jump. Every puddle I passed looked like a mouth. Every bridge over a canal or a river made my throat clench. When I got back to my building, I didn't go inside. I sat in my car and watched the entrance like I expected someone to step out wearing Kyle's face. I thought about calling Manny. Thought about calling anyone from the crew who might believe me. Then I remembered Manny laughing over that hole and the ding that shut him up. I remembered his eyes when he felt the cover thump from below. He'd felt it. If I called him and said salt water and sonar, he'd either call me crazy or he'd get scared and do something stupid. Like come over. Like look. Like open it. The last thing I wanted was more people near whatever this was. So I did what people do when they're trying not to drown in something invisible. I tried to run from water. I packed a bag and got on a bus heading north, away from the river, away from the harbor, away from anything that looked like ocean. I told myself I'd go stay with my sister for a few days upstate, where the biggest body of water was a reservoir you could drive around in 10 minutes. The bus smelled like wet seats and cheap cologne. People stared at their phones. A baby cried. Normal. I sat in the back and tried to breathe. My mouth tasted less salty as we left the city. My throat loosened a little. For the first time in 2 days, I thought maybe it was just tied to the location. Maybe the tunnel was like a gas leak, a localized insanity, and I could get out of range. Then we hit a bridge. Not a big one. Just a span over a wide canal feeding into the river. As the bus rolled over it, I heard it through the floor. Ping. Soft, clean. Everyone else stayed oblivious. No one flinched. No one looked up. I gripped the seat so hard my fingers cramped. Ping. And then the bus's overhead lights flickered once. And for a moment, the window glass to my left didn't reflect the inside of the bus. It reflected a ribbed tunnel with water floating full of blue-green flecks. A pale shape stood close, as if it leaned toward the glass from the other side. My chest seized. I couldn't breathe right. My vision tunneled. I clamped my mouth shut so hard my teeth ached because the urge to clear my throat surged up like a wave. I swallowed hard. Something slick slid behind my tongue. I tasted pennies. The bus kept rolling. The reflection snapped back. The canal slipped away behind us. I got off at the next stop and threw up behind a dumpster, except it wasn't vomit. It was clear gel stringing out of my mouth, black flecks shimmering inside. It clung to my lip. It stretched when I wiped it. It didn't smear off like spit. It stuck like oil. I gagged and spat until my throat burned, and the gel kept coming in small strings like my body had decided this was normal output now. I went back to the city, not because I wanted to, because I realized I couldn't outrun it by moving my body. Water connected everything. Rivers fed reservoirs. Pipes crossed counties. Rain fell everywhere. Oceans breathed into the atmosphere. You can't leave water behind unless you leave the planet. And it wasn't chasing me like a monster. It was already in the system. It was already threaded through anything that flowed. My only hope, if it was hope, was that it still needed something from me. An opener. That word kept hitting me like a bruise. Open it. Kyle's mouth saying it in a voice that wasn't his. The work order app screaming level -3 access like it was a joke. I got home and sat on my kitchen floor with my back against the cabinets and stared at my phone. I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want to look at it. But I needed to understand what level -3 even meant. City infrastructure has levels on paper sometimes, sub-basements, pump galleries, the occasional deep intercept. But level -3 access wasn't a thing we used. Not on storm calls. Not for my crew. I turned the phone on. The screen lit instantly, like it had been awake the whole time, waiting. Assignment: level -3 access. Location: Midtown Line /57th. Clear obstruction. Open access. There was no accept button. No decline. Just a status marker. Open. Like it was already assigned, and all that mattered was whether I complied. I went into the work order history. Most of my old tickets were there: basement floods, clogged grates, manhole resets, normal. Then, buried under timestamps, I saw something new that made my blood go cold. A closed ticket. From years ago. Before Kyle. Before this storm. It had my employee ID attached. Level -3 access. Status: closed. Notes: opened successfully. I stared at it until my eyes watered. I didn't remember it. I didn't remember ever seeing level -3 in my life. But the system said I'd done it. Like I'd opened something once before and forgot. Like that's why it chose me now. The pipes in the wall thumped once, slow. I felt the answer in my body more than my mind. A memory pushed up under the fear. An old job. An old night. A flooded pump station under the river. A door that wasn't on the map. Something I'd shoved down because it didn't fit with the rest of my life. I tried to hold onto denial. Then my phone dinged. A new notification, clean and sharp like that sonar tone. Supervisor, report to site. Status, final warning. My supervisor hadn't sent that. He could barely work email. And even if he did, he couldn't send something through the work order system like that. The city system did. The water did. I sat there and laughed once, ugly and short, because what else do you do when a sewer decides it has HR policies? Then I got angry. I stood up and went to the closet and grabbed a toolbox and yanked out a hammer. I walked back to the phone and held the hammer over it like I was about to kill a spider. My throat tightened hard, like it sensed what I was about to do. The urge to clear it surged, so strong my eyes filled with tears. I forced it down. No, I said out loud, and my voice sounded small in my kitchen. I brought the hammer down anyway. The phone screen cracked. Plastic split. The ding stopped. For 2 seconds, I felt relief so sharp it almost made me dizzy. Then the kitchen sink behind me turned on by itself. Full blast. Clear, cold salt water poured into the basin like a fire hose. It splashed high and soaked my shirt. Blue-green flecks danced in it like a million tiny eyes. The pipes thumped, harder now. The sound traveled through the cabinets, through the floor, through my bones. Ping, ping, ping. The sink water darkened with depth. The basin turned into a black well. And in that black surface, the ribbed tunnel appeared, closer than ever, like the distance had collapsed. A pale face pressed up from below, blank and wet. A handprint rose against the surface, and the water bulged like a membrane. My body moved before my brain. I grabbed the faucet handles and twisted, but they spun loose like stripped screws. The water didn't slow. I stumbled back, hammer still in my hand, soaked and shaking. The gel urge hit my throat again, and this time it came with pressure behind my tongue, like something wanted out. I clamped my mouth shut and slapped my hand over it like I could physically stop it. The pale figure in the reflection lifted its hand again, not waving, offering, like it wanted me to take it. A ribbon of clear film slid through the membrane and into my sink. It crawled over the porcelain edge like a worm. I swung the hammer and smashed the faucet spout off the sink. Metal shattered. Water sprayed everywhere. The stream didn't stop. It just poured out of the broken pipe, and like the pipe wasn't connected to my building anymore. It was connected to the other place. The film ribbon touched the puddle on my floor and spread fast, slicking across the tile like spilled oil. I backed up into my living room, barefoot now, slipping. My phone, broken on the floor, buzzed. Not from its speaker, from the water in the room. The work order app didn't need a screen. It didn't need a battery. It used flow. It used connection. The only thing I had that could maybe break that was distance, and distance didn't exist when everything was water. So I did the worst thing I could think of, because fear makes you stupid. I went back to Midtown. I told myself it was to close it, to seal it, to cement the manhole, to weld it, to do something solid that didn't depend on pipes. But deep down I knew why. If it wanted me to open it, maybe it was because there was still a choice there, a thin line of control. If I went to the source, maybe I could refuse in a way that mattered. Or maybe I was walking right back into the mouth because something in my throat was already tugging me like a leash. It was late afternoon by the time I got there. The storm had eased into steady rain. The street looked normal again. Cars passed. People hurried under umbrellas. The city did what it always did, kept moving like nothing ever happened under it. The manhole was there, same spot, same iron ring in the asphalt. There were new spray paint marks around it from the rescue response. Orange lines. A code. Searched. I stood over it and felt my stomach twist. My hands tingled. My mouth tasted like pennies. I heard the thump under my feet, faint but steady, like a heartbeat through concrete. I wasn't alone. A utility van sat a half block down with its hazards on. Two guys in rain gear stood under its open rear door smoking. Not my crew, not city sanitation. Their jackets were plain. No logos. They watched me like they'd been waiting. One of them flicked his cigarette and walked toward me, slow, casual, like he owned the street. "Hey," he said. I didn't answer. He stopped a few feet away and looked me up and down. His eyes were bloodshot like he hadn't slept. His hands were cracked and wet around the nails, like someone who washed too much or worked in brine. "You the one from the other night?" he asked. "What?" I said, and my voice came out rough. He nodded at the manhole. "The kid. The rescue. The whole show." I stared at him. "Who the fuck are you?" He smiled without humor. "Someone who's been on level -3 longer than you." My stomach dropped. The other guy started walking over too, slower, scanning the street behind me like he didn't want witnesses. "You don't want to stand here," the first guy said. "You're drawing it up. It likes when you're near. Stop talking like it's..." I started, and my throat tightened mid-sentence. I swallowed hard. He watched my throat like he knew exactly what that meant. "You got it in you," he said quiet. "Yeah, I see it." I took a step back. I didn't open anything. "You did," he said. "Once. Years ago. You don't remember because you didn't want to. Same way I didn't want to." I clenched the hammer handle still in my hand, like a comfort object. "What is level -3? The second guy answered, voice flat. "It's where the water listens." I stared at him. He looked away, jaw tight, like he hated hearing himself say it. "Deep station. Old. Under the river. They built it during the war. Listening post. Sonar experiments. They wanted to hear submarines before radar got good. They dug too deep. Hit something that wasn't supposed to be here." The first guy's smile twitched. "They didn't hit it. It hit back. Rain tap on my hood. A car passed and sprayed water at the curb. The puddle at my feet rippled wrong, like it had its own tide." "You're bullshitting me," I said, but it came out weak. "You hear the ping?" the first guy asked. I didn't answer. He nodded like my silence was enough. "That's its way of checking distance. It sends the ping, reads what comes back. Like sonar. It doesn't see. It feels pressure. It feels reflection." My skin crawled. "Why me?" He looked me dead in the eyes. "Because you opened it before, and it remembers hands. Water remembers hands. It remembers who touched the membrane." The second guy stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You got two options. You keep running until it opens you from the inside, or you go down and you shut your mouth and you do exactly what we tell you so you don't make it worse." "What? You're gonna save me?" I snapped, anger flaring because fear was choking me. "Who the fuck are you guys?" "City." The first guy barked a laugh. "City doesn't even know it exists." City thinks level -3 is a line item in a budget. We're maintenance, the kind that doesn't get uniforms. He tapped his chest. No vai, no name, just wet fabric. I'm not going down there, I said. The manhole under my feet thumped, harder like it heard me. My throat clenched so hard my eyes watered. The first guy's face tightened. Don't say no near it, he hissed. It likes refusal. It likes pressure changes. You argue, it pushes. You panic, it pushes. What do you want from me? I said through clenched teeth. He nodded toward the cover. We need you to look. That's it. Not open. Not touch. Just confirm whether the seam is back. Seam, I repeated, swallowing salt. The split, he said. The parting. The ribbon. It's been quiet for months. Then your storm call happened, and now it's active. That means it's hungry or it's moving. I stared at the cover. My hand shook. The second guy stepped past me and knelt. He pulled a tool from his bag, like a hook with a pressure gauge attached, something specialized I'd never seen in city stock. He fit it into the manhole's slot without touching the metal directly, like it was contaminated. You gonna lift? I said, and my voice rose. He shot me a look. Quiet. The first guy grabbed my shoulder hard. Keep your mouth shut, he said. Chew, swallow, bite your tongue, I don't care. Just don't clear your throat. I wanted to shove him off. I wanted to punch him. I wanted to run. But my throat was already doing that thing again, that building cough like a wave. So I shut up. The second guy lifted. The cover came up too easily, like the seal wanted to break. A gust of air rolled out, raw oysters and pennies cold enough to goose-flesh my arms. The opening below looked black. Not night black, depth black. Rainwater flowed toward it along the curb like the street itself leaned into the hole. Blue-green flecks floated up like sparks from a fire, except they drifted instead of rose. The second guy held a small light over the opening, not pointing it down, just letting it shine across the surface. He watched the way the light behaved like he was reading a gauge. The first guy leaned in slightly, careful not to shadow it. I stood back and stared like my eyes could keep my body from doing something dumb. A soft ding rang up from below. The first guy's jaw tightened. It's close, he muttered. The second guy's tool gauge needle twitched. He hissed through his teeth. Seems present. My stomach sank. I heard it too then. A faint rubbing sound under the ding, like something moving along brick with wet skin. The first guy looked at me. You seeing it? He asked. I swallowed hard and stepped closer despite myself. The ladder below was wet, but the water line moved like tide. Slow inhale, exhale. The blue-green flecks drifted in it, thick, and down on the walkway, just at the edge of my light, I saw it. That clean, rounded opening in the brick wall that shouldn't exist. It was back. The first guy nodded like he'd expected it. All right, he said. All right, we got confirmation. We close it. Close it how? I asked and my voice cracked. He glared at me, not with words. The second guy started lowering something into the hole. Some kind of plug assembly, heavy, rubberized with clamps, like a temporary dam. It disappeared into the dark. The first guy turned to me. You need to go home, he said, and you need to stop touching taps. Drink bottled. No showers. No sinks. You want to wash? Use wipes. You want to piss? Use a bucket. Seriously. I stared at him like he was insane. He leaned close, voice low and hard. Water's the pathway. You keep feeding a connection, it keeps feeding you. Why didn't you stop it before, Kyle? I hissed. His eyes flashed with something that looked like guilt and rage combined. Because we didn't know it was coming through storm lines. It's been sealed deep for decades. Then the storm hit and pressure shifted and it found a weak spot. It's always looking for weak spots. And now it found me, I said. He nodded once. Now you're a weak spot with hands. The second guy came back up from the hole fast, breathing hard. He didn't look at us, just jammed the cover down with both gloved hands. It bounced once like something pushed back, then seated. He held it there until the vibration eased. The first guy grabbed my arm. Come on, he said. Move. Wait, I started. He squeezed harder. Move. We walked fast down the sidewalk away from the manhole. My head kept turning back, expecting to see the cover lift itself like a lid. Cars hissed past. People didn't notice. The city kept moving. Half a block away, the first guy stopped under a streetlight. Rain dripped off his hood. "You got a name?" I asked because I needed to call him something that wasn't guy who knows about level -3. He hesitated. "Don't," he said. "What?" "Names make it easier to call," he said, eyes tired. "It listens. It likes being called." "That's bullshit," I said. He shrugged. "Everything about this is bullshit." Still true. He dug in his pocket and pulled out a small object wrapped in plastic. He held it out to me. It was gum, not like mine. Plain white sticks, no brand. "Chew this," he said. "It helps." "How the fuck would gum help?" I snapped. He didn't flinch. "Keeps your mouth busy. Keeps you from clearing your throat. Keeps you from opening." I stared at it. The second guy spoke for the first time since we left the hole. It used to come through radio, through hydrophones. Guys in the deep station heard the pings and started answering back without meaning to. They'd mimic it, like a reflex, like a song stuck in your head. Next thing you know, they're opening doors they don't remember walking to. I swallowed hard. "Kyle." "Yeah," the first guy said, voice tight. Kyle answered. I took the gum. He watched me unwrap it and shove it in my mouth like he was watching a man put on a life vest. "You're gonna feel like you're drowning," he said, "even when you're breathing. That's normal." "That's not normal," I muttered around the gum. "You're gonna taste salt. You're gonna see reflections where there shouldn't be. You're gonna hear pings and things that don't have speakers. That's it testing you, mapping you. Don't engage. Don't stare too long. Don't touch water that isn't bottled." "And if I do?" I asked. He stared at me a long second, then set it flat. "Then it opens you, and it doesn't need manholes anymore." Those are my words from the base fear in my gut, but hearing them from someone else made them real. I felt my knees wobble. "Why tell me this?" I asked, voice raw. "Why not just, I don't know, knock me out, drag me somewhere, whatever you guys do?" The first guy's mouth twitched. "Because we can't stop it by force. We can only slow it. It needs consent. It needs a human to open. That's why it uses voices. That's why it uses work orders. That's why it uses your own throat." He stepped closer. "You still have choice. For now." The second guy looked away like he couldn't stand the conversation. "We'll be watching," he muttered, then headed back to the van. The first guy followed, then paused and looked back at me one last time. "Don't shower," he said again, like it mattered more than anything. "And if you hear the ding in your kitchen, don't go look." Then he was gone. I stood under the streetlight in the rain with gum in my mouth and salt in my throat and my hands tingling like they'd been dipped in something alive. I walked home. I tried to follow the rules. For 2 days, it almost worked. I drank bottled water. I avoided taps. I used wipes like a desperate soldier. I pissed in a bucket and hated myself. I chewed that plain gum until my jaw felt like it would crack. The pings got quieter. The thumps in the pipe slowed. The work order app stopped buzzing, at least on the shattered phone. I started to believe I could outlast it by starving a connection. Then my ceiling started leaking, not from the upstairs neighbor, not a regular drip. It leaked clear, cold water that smelled like brine. It seeped from the light fixture in my kitchen, a slow drip that made the bulb flicker. Plink, plink. Each drop hit the counter and spread like oil, clinging glossy. Blue-green flecks shimmered inside, each bead like trapped plankton. I stood there chewing gum, staring up at my own ceiling like it had turned into the ocean. My throat tightened. I forced myself to swallow. The drip sped up. Plink, plink, plink. Then the sound changed. Ding. Soft, clean, like a bell struck underwater. I froze. The first guy's warning hit me. If you hear the ding in your kitchen, don't go look. But it was above my head. It was in my ceiling. There was nowhere else to go. The light fixture bulged downward like a blister. I backed away until my spine hit the fridge. The bulge stretched, transparent, like a membrane forming where plaster should be. A handprint pressed from inside it. 5 fingers. Perfect outline. Black flecks suspended like pepper. I made a sound. Not words. Not a cough. Just a small involuntary gasp. The handprint pushed harder. The membrane bulged down further, as if it could drop into my kitchen like a bubble. My throat clenched again, and this time my saliva thickened instantly, slick and heavy. I felt it pooling under my tongue. I clamped my mouth shut and bit down hard enough to hurt. The membrane paused, like it was listening. Then, from inside the bulge, a voice came through, muffled by water. "Open it." Kyle's voice. My chest seized. My eyes burned. It said it again, clearer now, like the membrane learned how to shape sound through my air. "Open it." I backed away, shaking my head violently like that could shake the words out of my ears. "No," I tried to say, but I stopped myself halfway because the first guy's warning echoed. "Don't say no near it. It likes refusal." I swallowed hard. The saliva in my mouth slid back like thick gel. The membrane pulsed. "Open it," Kyle's voice said again, and it sounded tired now, like pleading, like he'd been saying it for days. I grabbed the closest thing on my counter, a pot lid, and whipped it up like a shield, like that mattered. Then I ran. I ran out of my apartment and down the stairs and into the rain without shoes, gum still in my mouth, throat locked. I stood on the sidewalk and stared up at my building like it might spit my ceiling out onto the street. Nothing looked different. People walked past me under umbrellas like I was just another weirdo. I realized then that this thing didn't need my apartment. It didn't need the sink. It didn't need the ceiling leak. It just needed access points. And it was making them. Everywhere. I couldn't stay there. I couldn't go anywhere. The only place with any chance of control was the source. Level -3. So I went looking for it. I did what I should have done at the start. I dug through old infrastructure maps. I called old-timers who'd retired and still answer their phones because they missed being needed. I asked questions that made people hang up. Most of them laughed at me. A couple got quiet. One guy, Frank, retired pump station operator, didn't laugh at all. He just breathed into the phone like he was listening for someone on the line with us. "Don't say that level," he whispered when I mentioned it. "What level?" I snapped. "Tell me." He didn't answer for a long second. Then he said, "Under the river. Old station. They used to call it the listening gallery. You don't go there." "I already did," I said, and the words tasted like rust. Frank went silent. "You're still alive?" he asked finally, like he couldn't believe it. "Yeah," I said. "Barely." He exhaled slow. "Then you're marked." "Where is it?" I demanded. He gave me a location in pieces, like he was afraid to say it straight. A service access in a maintenance tunnel near an old pump house by the river, sealed behind a door that wasn't on public maps. A place you only knew if you'd worked long enough and someone showed you. Why would the city build something like that? I asked. "They didn't," he said. "The Navy did. They borrowed the city. They always borrow the city." "What happened down there?" I asked. Frank's voice dropped until it was almost nothing. "They listened. Something listened back. Then people started answering." "Answering what?" "The ping," he whispered. "They'd mimic it, like humming a tune. Then they'd open doors. Then they'd drown on dry floors." My throat tightened and I nearly choked on my gum. Frank heard the change in my breathing through the phone. "You chewing?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, bitter, like an idiot. "Keep chewing," he said. "Don't stop. And don't go alone. Who the fuck would come with me?" I snapped. Frank didn't answer. He just said, "I'm sorry," and hung up. I went anyway, because what else do you do when your ceiling turns into a mouth? The access point was a squat little building by the river that most people thought was a storage shed. It had a fence around it and a padlock and a faded warning sign about authorized personnel only. Rain slicked everything. The river beside it moved heavy and dark, swollen by the storm, chewing at the shore. I climbed the fence like I was breaking into my own job. My hand shook. My gum was stale now, but I kept chewing. Inside the building, it smelled like damp concrete and old oil. A single overhead bulb buzzed. Water dripped somewhere deeper. A metal door sat at the back, thick and painted the same dull gray as everything else. No label. No handle, just like a ship hatch. My mouth went dry with salt. I put my hand on the wheel, and it felt colder than metal should feel, like it had been sitting in deep water. Ping, soft, clean, from the other side of the door. My throat clenched hard enough to hurt. I kept my mouth shut and turned the wheel. It moved too easily. The door swung inward with a hiss like pressure equalizing, and cold, damp air rolled out, brine and pennies, making my eyes water. Beyond was a tunnel. Not brick, not city. Smooth, curved walls with ribs, like the inside of a pressure tube. Condensation clung to it like sweat. A thin sheet of water ran along the floor, clear and dark, moving in slow pulses. The blue-green flecks drifted in it. My legs tried to stop me. My body screamed to back up. But my hands tingled and my throat pulsed, and my brain felt like it had already stepped forward. I went in. The door closed behind me with a soft thud that sounded too final. The tunnel sloped down. Not steep, but steady, like a ramp into something deeper. The air got colder. The sound changed. Above, you could still hear rain faintly. Down here, you heard the river, not as a roar, but as pressure, water moving against walls. Every few seconds, ping, the sound traveled through the ribs of the tunnel like it lived in the metal. I walked, boots splashing in the thin water, and each step sounded wrong, too loud, too echoed, like I was in a submarine corridor. I reached a junction where the tunnel opened into a larger chamber. The listening gallery. It looked like a control room that had been drowned and then drained. Consoles lined the walls, old analog dials and rusted switches, hydrophone charts stained with salt. Thick cables ran overhead like veins. The floor was slick with condensation and shallow water. The ceiling curved high, ribs arching like a whale's spine. In the center of the room was a pool. Not a normal sump, not a drain. A perfect circular opening rimmed with metal, filled with black water, so still it looked solid. Blue-green flecks floated in it in slow spirals. It was the same as the manhole, but deeper, cleaner, older. Like this was the throat, and the street was just a pore. My heart hammered. My gum moved uselessly in my mouth. My throat tightened around it like it wanted to swallow it whole. Ping. The sound came from the pool now, resonating up through the room like a bell. I stepped closer. The black surface reflected the ceiling ribs, the old consoles, my own face. Then the reflection changed. Rib tunnel, different ribs, deeper, darker. Columns rising out of water. Pale figures standing between them like statues. One figure stood closest, right under where I stood, like it was looking up at me from below the surface. It lifted its hand. The water bulged upward like a membrane. A handprint pressed from underneath, clear gel spreading around it, black flecks shimmering like pepper. I staggered back and bumped into a console. The metal was cold and wet. From behind me, a voice said, "You shouldn't have come alone." I whipped around and nearly fell. The first guy from Midtown stood in the tunnel entrance, soaked, breathing hard. The second guy behind him held a light low, like he didn't want to shine it on the pool. Ow, I started. He cut me off fast. "Shut up," he hissed, then softened his voice. "Keep chewing. Don't talk." I clenched my teeth and nodded, furious and relieved at the same time. "You're drawing it up," the second guy muttered, scanning the room. "It's already active." The first guy stepped beside me, eyes locked on the pool. "We try to seal the street access," he whispered. "It pushed into your building instead. It's testing pathways. It's pushing for a mouth." He looked at me sideways. "How bad is your throat?" I shook my head, then realized that meant nothing. I tapped my throat with 2 fingers, then held my hand out, palm up, like I was showing him an empty cup. I didn't know how to communicate without talking. He nodded like he understood anyway. "Yeah," he said. "It's in you." The second guy pulled something from his bag. Not a plug this time. A device with clamps and a thick cable. It looked like a hydrophone, like a microphone meant to live underwater. He knelt at the pool edge, careful, and clipped it to the rim without letting his glove touch the water. Ping. The sound hit the device and the cable trembled. The first guy leaned close to my ear. "We're gonna try something," he whispered. "It's gonna want you to answer." "Don't." I stared at the pool, jaw locked. The second guy flipped a switch on the device. A sound filled the room. Not a ping. A low, distorted tone like a whale call filtered through static. Like sonar, translated into something you could feel in your teeth. The ribs and the walls vibrated. The water in the pool shivered, and the blue-green flecks flared brighter like they got excited. My throat spasmed so hard I almost gagged. The first guy grabbed my shoulder, nails digging through my wet shirt. "Hold it," he growled. The pool membrane bulged upward, not just a handprint now, an entire section rising like a blister. A pale face pressed close beneath it. Kyle's face. Not right. Too smooth. Too wet. Like someone had molded it out of gel and stretched it over a skull that didn't match. His eyes were open but empty, no reflection. His mouth moved behind the membrane like it was trying to form words. The first guy made a small sound, half curse, half prayer, and then he snapped at the second guy. "Turn it down." The second guy didn't. He stared at the device, watching a needle bounce like he was reading a heartbeat. "It's responding," he said, voice tight. "It's closer than it's been in years." Kyle's mouth moved again. Through the membrane, through water, through my own blood. I heard it in my head like a thought I didn't choose. "Open it." The phrase hit my throat like a hook. My body tried to comply. My jaw loosened. My chest pulled in a breath like I was about to speak. The first guy slapped me hard across the mouth. Pain flashed. Gum flew. Saliva sprayed. I wanted to swing on him, pure reflex, but the second guy grabbed my wrists and pinned them. "Don't," he hissed. "You open, we all drown." My throat clenched, and clear gel surged up under my tongue like a tide. I turned my head and spit onto the floor. It hid in a thick string, black flecks shimmering. The first guy stared at it like it was an old enemy. "Fuck," he whispered. The pool membrane bulged more, like it smelled the gel, like it recognized itself. Kyle's face pressed harder against it. The skin looked stretched thin, translucent in spots, blue-green flecks floating behind his cheeks like plankton trapped in meat. His mouth opened wider, and a ribbon of clear film slid through the membrane's seam and onto our side. It didn't drip. It crawled. The second guy yanked the device cable back. "It's breached," he snapped. The first guy grabbed my collar and hauled me backward. "Move!" I stumbled, feet slipping on the wet floor. The ribbon hit the console leg and split, thin strands crawling toward us like tendrils. The first guy kicked at it with his boot. The film wrapped around his toe like it loved him. He swore and stomped, and it tightened. The second guy grabbed a small canister and sprayed something, foam, thick and white, onto the film. It hissed, and the film recoiled, shivering like it hated the chemical. It didn't die. It just pulled back, regrouping. "Go!" The first guy barked at me. "Get to the door." I ran toward the tunnel we'd come in through, slipping, heart smashing my ribs. Behind me, the pool dinged again, louder, and the whole room thumped with pressure like the river above shifted. The tunnel walls creaked. A deep hole creak, like metal under pressure. The kind of sound you hear in submarine videos and laugh at because it sounds like a monster. It wasn't funny in person. The second guy followed close behind me, hauling the cable. The first guy stayed back near the pool, spraying foam, kicking, swearing. He looked like a man fighting oil with his bare hands. "Come on," the second guy yelled. The first guy backed away from the pool, limping, film clinging to his boot like a leash. He sprayed foam again and again, and the film kept recoiling, then advancing. Kyle's face in the membrane turned toward him, and even through the distortion, I saw something in it that looked like recognition. Like Kyle knew him. Like Kyle was still somewhere in there, trapped behind the wet cloth, watching himself do this. The first guy's eyes flicked to Kyle's face, and something cracked in him. Rage, grief, guilt. It all flashed at once. "Sorry," he spat, not to us, to Kyle. Then he turned and ran. We hit the tunnel, and the door at the end loomed, round while shining with condensation. The second guy grabbed the wheel and spun it hard. It resisted for a second, then moved. Behind us, the pool dinged again, and the ding turned into a long, dragging tone like something sliding across metal from the inside. My throat clenched. The urge to answer burned behind my teeth like a scream. I bit down hard enough to taste blood. The door swung open and cold air rushed in from above. River air, rain air, almost warm compared to the deep. We spilled out into the little building by the river. The storm hit us like a slap. Zen, wind, real air. The second guy slammed the door and spun the will shut. The moment it sealed, the building shuddered, like something bumped it from underneath. Thump, thump, thump. The first guy leaned against the wall, chest heaving. His boot was slick with clear film and foam. He stared at it like it was alive. "It's in the room," he rasped. "We woke it up." "You woke it up," I tried to say, but my voice would have been the answer it wanted, so I clamped down and just glared. The second guy wiped rain from his face and looked at me. "You weren't supposed to come," he said flat. "But you did. Now it knows the pathway to you is direct." The first guy straightened, eyes hard now. "We can't keep sealing holes if you keep being the hole," he said. My throat tightened and gel pulled again. I swallowed and it slid back thick. He watched my throat. "Yeah," he said. "You feel it." I nodded, shaking. He stepped close. "Listen to me," he said, voice low and brutal. "It's going to keep knocking. It's going to keep pinging. It's going to show you Kyle's face. It's going to show you your own face. It's going to use anything wet. Tears, coffee, Zen, your own saliva. It's going to try to get you to make one small obedience sound." My eyes burned. Rain mixed with tears, and I hated that because it meant more water on my face, more pathways. "What do I do?" I forced out, and the words scraped my throat like sandpaper. The first guy flinched like I'd fired a gun. The second guy grabbed my arm fast. "Don't talk," the second guy snapped. "Not here." I clamped my mouth shut again, panicked. The first guy exhaled slow. "You do what you're doing," he said. "You keep chewing. You keep your mouth closed. You keep refusing without saying no. And you stay away from open water." I wanted to laugh. The river was 10 feet away, roaring dark and swollen beside us like a living thing. Rain fell on us in sheets. The world was water. The second guy looked at the river with a hollow expression. "It doesn't like the surface," he muttered. "It prefers enclosed pressure. Pipes, hulls, tunnels, places where water has to behave. The ocean is too big. It can't push a seam there the same way. It needs boundaries." The first guy nodded. "It needs infrastructure," he said. "It needs human-made shapes to make itself feel real." He leaned close again, voice rough. "That's why it loves the city. The city is a machine made of water pathways. It can ride it." My phone, broken, dead, buzzed in my pocket anyway, like my body was the phone now. The first guy saw my face twitch, and he nodded once, grim. "Yeah," he said. "It's already issuing work orders through you." The second guy stepped toward the door like he wanted to leave, like staying near the access point felt like standing over a shark cage. "We'll check the seals," he said. "We'll keep foam in the lines. We'll monitor the pings. But you," he looked at me with something like pity and anger. "You're the variable." I wanted to tell him to go fuck himself. I wanted to tell him Kyle was the variable and he was gone. But my throat clenched and gel rose again, and the words died behind my teeth. The first guy clapped my shoulder once. Hard, like a hit. "Go home," he said, "and don't let your mouth do anything on autopilot." I left the river building and walked back into the city in the rain with my jaw clenched so tight my teeth hurt. For a while, I managed. I chewed the plain gum until my mouth was raw. I stuffed my pockets with it. I kept my lips pressed together like a vow. I stopped drinking anything that wasn't sealed. I stopped taking showers. I wiped myself down like a prisoner. I avoided sinks. I avoided toilets. I avoided my own tears. I started sleeping in short bursts because whenever I drifted off, my jaw relaxed and my throat tried to clear itself in sleep, and I'd jolt awake, choking on gel. Sometimes I'd wake with my pillow damp and salty and faintly glowing with blue-green, flecks like plankton had crawled out of my mouth while I slept. I burned those pillows in a trash can behind my building at 3 in the morning like a lunatic. My neighbors stared. I didn't care. The city sent letters about my suspension. HR wanted meetings. My supervisor left voicemails calling me a piece of shit. Manny texted me once, "You okay?" Then followed it with, "Cops asked about you." I didn't answer, because every time I looked at my phone, the screen reflected wrong for half a second. Ribbed tunnel, dark columns, pale figures. Sometimes, if I stared too long, one of the figures would lift its hand like it was waving me closer. I stopped looking at screens. I started hearing the ping in everything. The microwave, the radiator, the elevator cables, the distant hum of subway tunnels under wet tracks. Always that clean, soft ding like something tapping on glass from the other side of water. And always that slow heartbeat thump in the pipes. Then the first big freeze hit. Winter came hard, fast. The kind of cold snap that makes the city pipes groan. Streets iced. Salt trucks ran all night. People slipped and cursed and kept moving. I thought, stupidly, that the cold might help. Freeze the water. Stop the flow. Slow the pathways. For one night it did. The taps ran thin. The pipes quieted. The ping went away. I slept for 4 straight hours, the longest I'd slept in weeks. I woke up to silence, and for one blessed moment, I thought it was over. Then I heard something from my bathroom. A slow, wet rubbing sound, like a hand on porcelain. I stood in the doorway, heart hammering, and stared at my closed bathroom door. The sound came again, slower, deliberate. Then, ding, soft, clean. My throat clenched so hard I tasted blood. I backed away, shaking my head, lips sealed. The bathroom door handle turned. Not fast, not violent, slow, like someone on the other side had all the time in the world and wanted me to watch. The door opened an inch. A line of blue-green light seeped out through the crack like glow from deep water. I ran. I didn't grab shoes. I didn't grab a coat. I didn't grab gum. I ran out of my apartment and down the stairs and out into the freezing night with my mouth clamped shut and my throat burning. Outside, the air was so cold it hurt to breathe. My breath came out in clouds. The street was quiet. Snow piled on curbs, the city muffled. I stood under a streetlight and tried to chew nothing, tried to keep my jaw busy without gum. My mouth flooded with saliva, thickening fast, and panic surged because saliva was water too. I pressed my tongue hard against my teeth, trying to keep it moving, trying to keep my throat from doing that automatic clear. Behind me, a storm drain at the curb bubbled. It shouldn't have bubbled in that cold. It should have been frozen. Clear water rose in it like tide. Blue-green flecks shimmered under ice. The ping came from it, soft, clean, like a bell under snow. I backed away, slipping, and the drain water rose higher like it followed. Not fast, patient, confident. It wasn't chasing me like a monster. It was just moving through its system the way water moves, toward the lowest point, toward the easiest path. And I was becoming the easiest path. That's when I realized the first guy had been wrong about one thing. It didn't need me to open a door like a person opens a hatch. It needed me to open in the way a throat opens, in the way a mouth obeys a reflex. All it needed was one small sound of compliance, one cough, one clear, one ah that let the gel move up and out and connect. I stumbled back into my building, shaking, and went up the stairs with my lips sealed so tight they split. When I got to my apartment, the bathroom door was closed again. The hallway smelled faintly of brine. I didn't go in. I sat on my kitchen floor and pressed my hands over my mouth and rocked like a child because I was out of options. My broken phone buzzed from inside a drawer I'd stuffed in days ago. Level -3 access. Status, open. I could feel it without seeing it, like the words lived in my bones now. Then a new sensation hit me, subtle at first. A pressure behind my eyes, like when you dive too fast and your sinuses don't equalize. My ears popped. In my kitchen, on dry land. I swallowed hard and my throat clicked like I was clearing it. Gel surged up. I bit down and tasted pennies and blood. The pressure in my head increased, slow, steady, like water pressing on a hull. I heard the deep creak of metal under strain, not from my building, from somewhere below, somewhere under the city, like a station door flexing. The ping came again, not from pipes now, from inside my skull. Ding. And then, without my permission, my mouth opened a fraction. Not enough to talk, enough to breathe, enough to let the gel shift forward. My hands clamped harder over my lips, but it didn't matter. The movement was internal. The gel slid up behind my tongue, thick and slick, and I felt it touch the back of my teeth like it was tasting them. In the corner of my eye, the kitchen sink reflected light from the ceiling even though I hadn't turned it on. The basin's surface looked wet. A black lens. A mirror. I didn't want to look. I could not look. In that reflection, the rib tunnel-weighted. Columns stood like teeth. Pale figures watched, still as drowning victims. One of them stood closest and lifted a hand, and I knew before I saw it that the hand looked like mine. Same shape, same knuckles. A clear handprint pressed up from below the sink's surface, gel spreading, black flecks shimmering. My throat tightened like it wanted to answer it. My jaw trembled. Somewhere deep in the building, in the pipes, in the water, in the river, in the city's hidden ribs, something knocked once, slow and confident. Like it was reminding me it didn't need storms anymore. It had pathways everywhere. It had my mouth. And the worst part, the part that keeps me chewing until my gums bleed, the part that makes me sleep in 2-minute bursts with my hands over my face, is that I can feel the moment coming when my body will betray me. Not because I'll choose it, because you can't stay clenched forever. One day I'll laugh too hard, or choke on my own spit, or fall asleep with my jaw relaxed, and my throat will do what throats do. It'll clear. It'll open. It'll make one small obedience sound. And when it happens, the city won't need manholes and storms and rescue responses and work orders anymore. It'll have me.